Hi everyone, we're back having a look at CAMELS, cinematic techniques, and last lesson we looked particularly at cameras, camera angles, camera movement, and talked about how they can influence the way that messages are put forward to the audience, so you and I, by the director. This lesson, we're going to be having a look at some of the other elements of CAMELS, of cinematography and cinematic techniques. And let's start with A. A is about actors and acting. Now, we have been talking quite a lot about the actors and the acting in this movie so far. But actors play a really pivotal role in the way that messages are conveyed in a film. So it is really important to analyse and take note of things that they're doing. So things like their expressions, so their facial expressions, their movements. I know that with Edward there's a lot of kind of particular movements that communicate things for us. So for instance, his scissor flicking, we know he does that when he's very excited, whether that's excited happy or excited nervous. So body movements, the way words and phrases are pronounced, so the way they use their voice. So you could talk particularly about Joyce and the way that Joyce uses her voice, where she's like, yeah, she uses that silly voice, and we know that that's her being flirtatious. And even the timing of when they deliver things, so when they deliver their lines or make those movements, the timing can really make a difference in the way that something is conveyed. And these are all deliberate choices by the director. So the director is the person who tells the actors what to do, how to act. They might have some opinions themselves, but ultimately the director is the person who decides how things are done. Okay, and all of those things can be used as evidence. Even the actors themselves are a form of communication. So, choosing someone that looks like Johnny Depp to be Edward Scissorhands, that's a deliberate choice. Choosing Winona Ryder to be Kim, that's a deliberate choice. And when we watched that. When we watched that documentary, it actually went through and talked about that deliberate decision by Tim Burton. Also, camel fact, the world's largest population of wild camels is not found anywhere near Arabia. It is in Australia. We have the world's largest wild camel population. It's huge. It's huge. So, yeah, there you go. Surprise! They're all in, the desert, in the Northern Territory. So, yeah, there you go. Fun fact. All right, let's have a look at our next thing. Oh, that didn't work. There we go. All right, so let's have a little look at the way that acting is used to convey a message. So, okay, let's have a look at this scene. Here we go. Looking for actors and acting.
You're here. They didn't hurt you, did they? Were you scared? I tried to make you...
Alright, I just want to pause there. I might go back a little smidge just to really emphasize it. Okay, so this is the bit where she said, you're back. Were you scared? And what she's doing is she's stepped quite close to Edward, which that behaviour tells us that she's not afraid of him anymore. She used to be afraid of him, but she's not afraid of him anymore because she's willing to stand so close to him. So her actions have actually shown us something about their relationship without actually having to verbalise it. Also, the way that she's kind of looking up at him and having this conversation kind of seems like she's feeling very guilty and sympathetic towards him. And also her voice, the way she says, you know, were you scared? You know, we hear the sense of guilt and the sense of sympathy. So that's how acting and actors are being used there.
Were you scared? I tried to make Jim go back, but you can't make Jim do anything. Thank you for not telling them that we...
You're welcome.
It must have been awful when they told you whose house it was.
I knew it was Jim's house.
Okay, so can you see how in that part of the scene, when we get the shots of Johnny Depp, we can see that Johnny Depp's choosing to look down and slightly to the side while Kim is speaking, and he's kind of barely reacting. That's supposed to kind of say, communicate to us as the audience. We read that body language and we say, okay, well, Edward is not feeling happy. He's feeling very conflicted in that he cares about Kim, but then at the same time he feels kind of betrayed at the same time. So you've got that kind of conflicted feeling, and we read that through his body language. So because of his acting, we know how the character is feeling.
You did?
Yes.
Well, then why'd you do it?
Because you asked me to.
Again, those small movements, the slight frown on the face, the intense stare, and the dragging the scissors down the window. All of those things communicate a lot to us as an audience. It tells us the anger and the jealousy that he feels. And all of that information is shown to us rather than told to us through the acting.
Don't! What's the matter with you? When are you gonna stop? I did what I could. My old man thinks he's retarded, otherwise he'd still be in jail. What more do you want from me?
You could tell the truth.
So could you. You were there too.
It wasn't my duty.
All right, I just want to pause there and talk about angles. So, well, this is not a good shot for poor old Winona, but anyway. So, in this scene where we're seeing that idea of the angles again, the camera angles, and we're up on a high angle looking down on Kim from Jim's perspective, and it's showing us what the power dynamic is there, that Jim is really the powerful one in their relationship, the dominant one. So yeah, anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in while we're watching.
No, I didn't want to do it.
But you did do it. I don't get why you give such a shit anyway.
Alright, so that scene really does use acting and actors to really communicate a lot of the unspoken messages and unspoken thoughts that we really need in order to have a depth of understanding of these characters. Let's go back to, here we go, our presentation. All right, the M. So we're working through CAMELS, and we've had C, which is cinematography. We've had A, which is actors. Now we are mise en scène with M. So mise en scène, it's a French word that basically means everything that you can see in the scene. Okay, so that would be things like setting. So when we're talking about setting in Edward Scissorhands, we're obviously talking about those lovely sickly pastel houses that are all built exactly the same. We're talking about Edward's castle, Edward's garden, the inside of Peg's house. All of those places are called sets. They're setting, okay? And so they can all be important things used to communicate information to an audience. So for instance, with Edward's castle, it's, you know, portrayed as this really kind of gothic, scary mansion, right? This gothic castle in the middle of this suburban area. And, you know, the reason why Tim Burton does that is to communicate that, you know, Edward does not fit in with these sickly, sweet people. He doesn't fit in with them, that he is his own type of person. And that person would be very scary to these sickly, sweet people. So setting can be, you know, very symbolic and very important to communicating things to a potential audience. Another thing, costumes. Now costumes can be things like clothing, makeup, hairstyling, any of that kind of stuff. So for instance, we get a whole lot of messages through Joyce's costuming, that she wears these kind of like super tight outfits that are very revealing. She has kind of super long nails, very over the top makeup, very over the top hair color. And that's all kind of supposed to communicate to us that Joyce is somebody that we shouldn't respect, that we should see as untrustworthy and I guess, you know, for want of a better word, a bit of a floozy, and that she is, you know, I guess, you know, a bit unreliable. So something, you know, you can use costume to actually prove a point or receive a message. Other things that you can talk about are props. Props are basically physical objects on the set. So that would be, say, I guess, do you think the scissors in Edward Scissorhands, do you think they're part of costume or props? I don't know, I think it would be hard to make it definitive. But let's say the Christmas tree or the snow angel, all of those things are props. And they communicate messages. They're often used as kind of like symbols that kind of signify something bigger. Okay, so that's mise en scène. Let's have a little bit of a view of a clip that will look at mise en scène with us. Oh, it's already started playing. Okay, off we go. Oh, let me just open this up. Okay, so you guys would know this scene. This is the scene where they're driving back to Peg's house. We're seeing the houses. Now we've kind of got two scenes going on here. We've got we've got two settings here. We've got the setting inside of the car, where we kind of see the two of them sitting side by side in this kind of rickety car, and we see how kind Peg is, and sitting kind of opposite him, she's able to kind of show how much she cares about Edward. Maybe is a little scared in this scene, but then it's supposed to be compared with Edward's responses about, you know, how exciting and new and different this place is for him. So it's comparing their two reactions about being there.
I'm sorry. No, don't be. You go ahead and look. You have every reason to be excited. Oh! You okay?
Okay, so we had the... Hang on, I want to go back a bit. No, don't change that. All right. So we have these. I'm pausing at great times today. So we have all these kind of, the setting, the main setting for this film is, in front of all of these cookie cutter houses. Cookie cutter meaning like they're all cut out exactly the same. And he sets up this idea of these cookie cutter houses to kind of, that are all in these very sickly sweet colours, to kind of communicate to us a couple of things. One, that all of these people who live in these suburban houses, they're all the same. They live the same lives, they do the same thing, they all copy each other, and they lack originality. The other thing that he's trying to communicate with the colours is about the fact that all of these people like to portray themselves as these very sweet, very lovely people, but it's kind of like a sickly sweet. It's not an enjoyable, relaxing sweet colour. It's a sickly sweet, over the top. And, so that's Tim Burton again trying to kind of use that symbolism to communicate who these types of people are that live in these homes. All right. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. There it is. All right. Now we're up to editing. Hopefully you like my little pun there, the old camouflage. So that makes me laugh. So editing. So we've had C-A-M, now we're up to E. So editing. Editing is the process of joining individual shots together to create meaning. So back in the day when we used to make films in pretty much up to the 90s, I want to say the 90s, we used to actually get film and you'd have to get a pair of scissors and it'd be on a ream of film and you'd have to pull it out and look at each individual picture and then find where you wanted to make a cut, and you would go snip with a pair of scissors, and then you would snip, and then you would get the two pieces, put them together, and then tape it up. I am not even kidding you. That is how we used to make movies back in the day. You had to literally cut and paste. Okay, that's why, that when you're in any kind of editing suite, it always looks like a pair of scissors. Because back in the day, that's what we used to have to do, is get a pair of scissors out and cut it. Which obviously is not as easy. Anyway, so a scene is a collection of shots, right? Edited together in a specific order. A dissolve, a fade or a wipe, and I'm sure you've seen those things on PowerPoint, where it you dissolve from one scene to the next, or you fade from one scene to the next, or you go and it wipes from one scene to the next. They're different ways of transitioning from editing. Some of the main ones we see are crosscuts, and that's when the plot moves between the actions and events that are happening with different characters, rather than just following one character. So, for instance, it might go, okay, we're following what Arden is doing for a moment, and then it cuts, and then it might go, then we're showing what Caitlin's doing for the moment, and it cuts, and then it's, this is what Miss Richardson's doing for the moment. Cut. That's called cross-cutting, when you're bouncing from one thing to the next. Okay? A montage, something that's a little rarer. So cross-cuts are fairly usual. Montages are where we get a series of quick shots or stills, and they're used to kind of depict a long time period, like that this is happening over time, and usually there's kind of music to it. So I'm trying to think of a montage that you might know. Let's say building an IKEA shelf. So the first little scene is buying the IKEA shelf. The second little scene is, unpacking it. The third little scene is starting to put it together. The fourth little scene is two people going, oh, I don't know, holding a hammer, oh. And then the fifth scene is it put together. that would be considered a montage, where it's just quick little shots of little scenes and they're all put together to kind of go, over time, we put the shelf together. Okay? So that's a montage. The other one that I want to touch base about is lighting. Very, very important. Lighting is super important when it comes to a film. So lighting can do a whole bunch of different things. Backlighting, can be used to create a silhouette. A character might be made to look mysterious because you've got shadows in the back. So, you guys are all using Zoom at the moment, so you would know if you sat and you had a light source behind you, it kind of puts all these shadows on your face. You can't see the face. And so that makes someone look mysterious and maybe dangerous. Underlighting, hang on, I've got a little light here. Let me use it. Okay, so if I underlit something, it can make the face look disfigured. That's why take a selfie from below. It looks bad. But that's to kind of make you look scary. So you might underlight for that reason. Top light, like I was using before, like that. Top lighting's often used to kind of remove shadows and blow out an image. You guys know that if you want to take a good selfie, you need to look towards a light so that you have all the light on your face, which can make you look a little bit better. And then side lighting is where you have light coming from one side of the screen, so like that. So that would be side lighting, someone lighting me from there. And what that does is it lights up one side of the face, but it creates shadows on the other side, which often kind of means that it's like you're hiding something. Okay? Lighting can be used in symbolic ways too, which is kind of interesting. All right, there you go. I've revealed my hidden secret. Sound. So there are a couple of different types of sound. There's diegetic sound, and that's called we call sound diegetic when you know that it's a sound that your characters in the film could hear. So, for instance, doors slamming, people talking, and a song that they're dancing to. That would all be considered diegetic. Non-diegetic sound is where only the audience can hear it, and that might be soundtrack. That might be when you have a character that kind of, we're hearing their internal voice. So that would be considered non-diegetic sound. And music is used a lot in film, and particularly in this film, we actually, when we watched that documentary, we had the composer of the music talk about how important the music was in that film. And so music often sets the mood and the atmosphere of the film. And so they use really happy music to kind of make us feel happy. They use sad music to make us feel sad. They use creepy music for us to feel frightened. They use very kind of energetic music during action bits so that we feel the suspense and the excitement. So music's used a lot to convey certain things. Sound includes the following components. So it kind of splits into three. You either have dialogue, which is where the characters are talking, and like we said, that's diegetic. And then you have action sounds, and sometimes that includes sound effects, and that depends. Sometimes it's diegetic, so like action sounds like getting punched, like that sound, that would be a diegetic sound. If you had, like in the old Batman movies, where you have wham, pow, that would be considered non-diegetic because that's not what a punch sounds like. It sounds like that, yeah? So action sounds kind of depend. And music. Now, music can be non-diegetic, so like only heard by us, the audience, but then sometimes it can be diegetic. So say two characters who are dancing to a song. So that kind of depends. All right, let's have a bit of a look at those areas. I can pull this up. Yep. Let me just go here. Whoop. I missed it. Sorry, guys. It should work. There we go. Okay, so we've got the diegetic sound of the can opener there. So the diegetic sound of the can opener there, and that kind of brings him in. But then listen. Okay, so did you hear that? Like it sounded kind of like violins going. That sound is that sound would be non-diegetic. That's just heard by us, right? That's not in the world of the film. Okay? So then we had the noises of the factory, but some of the sounds became non-diegetic. So things that we wouldn't hear if we were standing in that factory. So the tuba sound, the dun 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 dun, that's probably non-diegetic. And then the sounds of the machinery working, that would be considered diegetic. That would be in the world of the film. Now let's talk about the lighting in this scene. It's very dark, and it seems very unlit, and there's a very good reason for that, because they want to create this atmosphere of Gothic in this in Edward's castle, don't they? They want to kind of make it seem like it's this Gothic castle, and you can't have a Gothic castle that's lit up like a Christmas tree. It's got to have dark and scary undertones, so it's underlit so that it creates this feeling of dark and scary. Okay, now I want to talk about the sound, the diegetic and non-diegetic sound that's happening in this scene. I think it's a really interesting way of using sound in this scene, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. So it's got a mixture of non-diegetic, so the soundtrack stuff, the song, but the song almost bleeds into the diegetic, doesn't it? It goes, it's like the machines move to the song. Almost like they hear it. But if you were standing on the factory floor, you wouldn't hear those sounds. He's kind of doing that on purpose, so they kind of bleed in together, and we really link what's happening on the factory floor with that music. And the music's it's odd, it's weird, but it's quite happy and friendly. We don't feel like it's menacing music. Which is really interesting. And I think that's supposed to be a message for how we're supposed to feel about Edward. That, like, yeah, he's weird and kind of creepy looking, but he's friendly, right? If we watch this scene with no sound, it has a very different impact. It hits different. So let's have a look. Ready? I'm going to turn the music off. I'm going to turn the sound off. You're just going to watch it as is, okay? You see what I mean? The machines seem a lot more sinister, don't they? They seem a lot creepier. Without the music, that scene feels a lot creepier than when we had the music. The music really gives it that kind of quirky, weird but cool kind of vibe, and not the scary vibe that we get without the music. Okay, so that kind of shows you the importance of sound in a film, that it can really kind of make or break a film. So that is the end of our CAMELS. Hopefully it has helped you a little bit to know about how to analyze a film, and hopefully next lesson we'll get some time to kind of pull it apart together and show what you can prove and show what you understood. Okay, see, oh, sorry, my dog's popping in to say hi. Here she is. Say hi, Dalla. Oh, isn't she cute? Alright, have a good day, guys. Bye.